carriers, brokers, and dispatchers. You're tuned into the E-Carrier Check Channel, where we bring you the insider tips, tricks, and insights to drive your sales and logistics business to new heights. Each week, your hosts, Jared and Nate, sit down with the top professionals in the industry, diving deep into everything from prospecting and cold calling to maintaining carrier relationships and maximizing your bottom line. Learn real-world strategies, hear success stories, and get actionable advice you can implement in your business today. So buckle up and get ready for an entertaining and informative ride. This is the E-Carrier Check Channel, your source for can't-miss logistics intelligence. Stay tuned.
Hey, good morning and happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the E-Carrier Check Show, Jared and Nate. We got a special guest on, Jimmy Durden, president of Red Rocket Logistics, also veteran-owned, which I love. I'm excited to hear about what Red Rocket Logistics is all about, the services you provide, Jimmy. I'm excited to hear about your company. And then we also have some really cool tech for some carriers out there that have been struggling understanding their cost. We have a lot of carriers that watch the show, and one of the things we talked about, Jared, is understanding your costs and understanding where you can, maybe start bidding. But Jimmy, it's great to have you on. You are a returning guest to the show, so it's been some time, man. How you been? What are some big changes that Red Rockets have been seeing? What's been working for you guys? I'd love to just kind of hear everything about your company in a nutshell, really, because like I said, our viewers have grown, so a lot of people may not know you, Jimmy. So let's do a quick introduction.
All right, man. Thanks for having me back on, man. I love you guys, and we appreciate the support in the industry anyhow we can get it. Red Rocket, man, just family-owned, family-operated, small unit, tight-knit. Our fundamentals really are based on, pricing things accurately to the customer while including everyone in the process, if that makes sense. Yeah. You need to know what it costs for these guys to operate their trucks. The customer needs to understand the cost to operate the trucks. And of course, putting those two together, there's a cost that the broker gets. It's pretty simple. I like to do my business very transparent, be, as upfront and honest and fair as possible. And I ain't going to say that they're beating my door down with me winning freight because, it's sometimes hard to change the mindset. When you're racing to the bottom with the bottom feeders, it's very hard to get a message across sometimes. But I would say that I am in the perseverance game. I wouldn't say I'm in the success game as much as I'm in the perseverance game.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been in this industry? And if you can't hear me, you guys put it in the chat here. But yeah, how long have you been doing this, Jimmy?
I got started in 2013, and it's crazy how I got started. I had a pallet yard, and then I had a customer who needed pallets moved. So what did I do? I bought a truck and said, okay, let's start moving pallets. And There I went. Down the road I went, down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, you're no stranger to this industry, which I think if customers understood your background and, they'd probably be beating down your door because you have some years of experience like Jared here. You don't have gray hair, which I love. I mean, you're good. But so you have some scars, man. I'm sure you learned a lot since 2013, man. You've seen and been through some things. What is your guys' niche over there at Red Rockets? You guys have like a niche? Is it like open decks, dry-van reefers? What's your cup of tea?
From my side, my cup of tea is more of a drayage. I like doing drayage work. Of course, I have other team members. They're more focused on hot shots, step decks, RGNs, things of that nature. They like to do that type stuff.
Yeah, that's really important for a company to kind of just be diverse in those types of equipment.
It is. I don't necessarily think you have to have a niche. I just think you kind of, whatever you're going to do, make sure you know what you're talking about. If that makes any sense. I mean, shooting from the hip is okay sometimes, but let's be honest, for the most part, you kind of need to be able to understand what the customer needs, and they need to be able to understand what you're giving back to them. For instance, I mean, dealing with drayage in Savannah, Georgia is way different than dealing with drayage in California.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are more prices and there are more things involved, and you just kind of need to know that. You're only going to learn that with experience, or getting a mentor, Google, LinkedIn, you guys, the drayage junkies, just people who will share information with you. That's the only way you're going to learn anything.
Yeah.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared to do it wrong, because the only way to learn is to do it.
Right.
So,
morning, Joe. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, let us know if we sound okay. We're in mic transition. We just ordered some new mics, so if you can't hear us very well, let us know. We're working on that. But
y'all got a big budget. Y'all got new microphones. Life is good.
$56.
They're on sale.
They're clip-ons. Right now we use a Blue Oyster one, and it works, but sometimes we struggle.
Yeah, I think it has a hard time picking up our voices, especially when we talk. But we're getting better over here.
Yeah, we're trying. Every day we get better. Jimmy, obviously, you talk to a lot of carriers. You built a company called AccuBid. I can hear you now. Good. Thank you, Julie. We appreciate you telling us that.
Julie.
Julie, let us know what you do. Are you a broker, dispatcher, carrier, whatever? I'd love to know where you're at and what you do. Jimmy, you built this company called AccuBid, and I love this because I'll be honest with you. We talk to so many carriers, and just the number one basic fundamental, what are your costs? Jimmy, if you can, obviously, how many carriers do you talk to that don't know their cost?
Back when I was running trucks, I talked to tons of owner operators, and their answer is, I want to make as much money as possible. And I say, well, there's got to be a number because everybody wants to make as much money as possible. Okay. But you'd be surprised at how many don't actually know. They're just shooting from the hip, and my buddy said I should make this. Well, your buddy is not going to pay your bills, so you probably should figure that out. And that's how AccuBid was born.
Yeah, I love that. I think honestly, and some of the carriers that we have on here are fairly intelligent. They do have
cheap freight hauler. Speaking of the dough, what's up, bro?
This cat knows every friggin' cent that leaves that truck and comes into that truck. But when people are trying to figure out their costs, where do they start? Like, where do you try to sit in your truck? You're like, all right, what are my costs? How do you figure this out? Because it's a moving target. You know what I mean?
Use AccuBid Pro. I mean, that's how you figure it out. I mean, no, in reality, you got to break it down to the actual cost. I mean, if you bought a truck, okay, you have a truck note. It's not you have insurance. So now you have an insurance payment. You have fuel. Those are three things right there you can't get away from. So right off the gate, of three things. The next thing you're going to try to factor in is maintenance. And then you need to factor in paying yourself something. It's pretty straightforward. But now how you do that, that's a different story. Because it all changes based on the mileage you run and so on and so forth. So there's some math and some equation in it, but you can get to a nice ballpark.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that you said earlier in the show was, the pricing and the way that the Savannah port is ran is different than the LA port. I think this is probably one of the more interesting parts is that wherever you're going in the country, there's different costs. If you think you're going to get paid large money out of Denver because you just got paid $350 to go in, you're going to have to think twice, right? Denver's one of those markets that you just get sucked into and then there's nothing coming out. How do you said something, people just have to have experience. People have to know, they get those scars, unfortunately, sometimes, but how do people kind of get into, I thought you said something interesting too, is like, hey, get a mentor. And that daily mentor sometimes doesn't keep you in the loop of, should I have taken that load to Denver or not?
Well, he might have kept you in the loop. Did you ask the right question? But The big thing would be, I would say, you're going to learn as you go. It's like, you're picking up your first load and it's up there and man, it's going to Florida, but man, it's paying me $3.25 a mile. Yes, that sounds amazing until you forgot to ask somebody, how do I get out of Florida? And they're going to say, you probably should just deadhead, I'm just being honest. I mean, if you've been in transportation, and I'm kind of on the East Coast, so I've dealt with it a lot, but that's the only way to really learn it. You're going to take your lumps, but in a mentor aspect, someone can tell you these areas run better these times a year, kind of try to stay away from here, but they're never going to say, call up Jared and Nate. They got the best freight. They're not going to give you their hookup. Let's be honest. But, they're going to hopefully guide you in the right direction. I think we all have a part to play in this. It sounds crazy, but as a freight broker, you're talking to a freight broker by day. But I built a tool for an owner-operator that if he uses it the right way, he negotiates with me better. So is that smart from the freight broker side? I probably get a lot of hate mail. You're cutting my profits. No, I'm showing the industry that everyone can make profit without being shisty, without being an asshat. Everyone can make profit. It's there. Now, are you conveying that in the right way to your customer? Are you even factoring in the carrier in your pricing? And by some of these prices I see, no one's factoring in anything other than I want to make a check. I mean, and that's not fair to anybody in the industry.
Yeah. And I think if you have carriers contacting you or at least calling on your loads and saying, hey, how often do you have these loads and here's my cost? I think as a broker, you're going to take that into kind of consideration of like, oh, I need to build a relationship with this cat because he knows his cost and he's interested in this lane. So it's like when those carriers do come, and if they're using your product and they understand their costs and they're talking to brokers, I think brokers are more willing to work with those types of carriers that understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Everyone has a cost at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think if you understand it and you can relay that information, it just kind of just helps you build more trust.
Yeah, it does. It keeps the conversation moving. Other than, if I had to post up a load, just say I had to. I mean, I use e-carrier check, so I find carriers fairly easy. I don't really go to the load board unless it's just a must-have.
Right.
But if I post a load up today, I'm not putting a price on it for one, because this is a negotiation. You need to call me and throw out a price. Now, don't get mad at me if you call me and throw out a price of $7 a mile and our conversation stops and I just hang up on you.
Yeah.
Don't get mad at me. But if you call me and you're realistic, because how I quoted the price to my customer is to build in a profit for me and build in a profit for you. So if you call me realistically, we're going to have a conversation and probably have a pretty long-lasting relationship.
Yeah.
As long as you do your part. The carrier has a part to play in all this. Yeah. One way to get cut off is not do what you said you're going to do. If this thing had a pickup time and a delivery time and you didn't make these things happen, or you're running around in bad equipment that's broken down, we're not working together. No matter if you do understand your cost, you're still going to cost me a customer. So, everybody's got a part to play.
Yeah, for sure. And I like what Chief Freight Hauler said here. Owner ops have got to start thinking of brokers as their sales team and not the opposition. Yeah. I
definitely think from a carrier standpoint, when was the last time you read one of your insurance policies?
Oh gosh.
Like your benefit package. Yeah. Have you done that lately?
No, lately.
And I think what happens with that statement is like, well, you just kind of expect the insurance to be there when it's there. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of carriers think that, well, the load boards are going to have a load and it'll be there, but they almost just completely forget the fact that they still need to go on, negotiate, build relationships, and have some sort of part in this. Jimmy, you're totally right, because I think it's wildly important and a little bit ignored. I'm driving the truck, I'll be okay. Well, no, you need to be a part of the negotiating. You need to be a part of being just smart. Smart trucking is wildly important to be able to not only make money, but to support your family, to find a new truck, to go to get another truck, to grow, right? We want to make progress. And I don't think carriers start their trucking company going, man, I just want to live in one. I think a lot of them go, hey, I bet I can get to 3 or 4 trucks. You know what I mean? But if you don't know your costs, but if if you don't know your costs, but also have the ability to bid, boy, howdy, this is why Jimmy's tool is so important here. Talk about the bidding side of this thing, Jimmy, because obviously we've identified, here's how you make your costs. Here's how you figure them out. You talked about all the things that people need to take into consideration. There's always variables and stupid things. You break your transmission or the trailer. There's some wildly large, charges of poor equipment, things like that. How do you figure in the bidding concept here, though, Jimmy? Because, man, this is it. Like, I don't care who you are. Brokers, drivers, they all struggle with bidding.
They struggle with bidding because the market is so saturated with bottom feeders. And I'm sitting in this place, and unfortunately, I'm a single truck owner operator. So, of course, I'm on the load board. Or I have a dispatch team who's doing this for me. But they're on load boards as well. And if they're seeing stuff at $1.60 a mile, even though it gets you out, the odds are they're not calling on it, because if they've got it posted at $1.60 and I need $2.30, what are the odds we're going to be able to make this work? But that comes from, not gonna slander a whole lot, but there's a big 3-letter, out there. And that's how they do their business in volume, and pretty much forcing you to take the crap. And there's never going to be a truckers union. Let's don't get it twisted. Just like there's never going to be a brokers union. This is always going to be a very independent game. But the more individuals and the more small fleets who refuse to move that stuff, the more things will change. If they start bidding things more accurately to their cost, and just let that freight sit and realize, maybe my truck only ran 4 days this week instead of 5, but I didn't lose. If that makes sense. If the truck isn't rolling, all it is eating is the truck note and the insurance. As soon as the truck is crunk up, now it's eating maintenance, now it's eating the driver costs, now it's eating fuel. It's eating so much more. So it's just really about weighing what's in your best interest. But as far as the bidding goes, once you know your operating cost, as a company, every company has a model. So decide on it, as your year goes, what would you like to see in profit? Do you want to see 10% or do you want to see 15%? And use those numbers, and you negotiate there. Of course, you start a little higher than you want. The broker is going to be a little lower than you want. And you're hoping in the end, you're in the middle, hitting the number you want. It's no different running a freight brokerage. Maybe I want to make 30%, across the board for the year as a margin. Let's be real. That's not happening. So I bid my numbers to make percentages, and everybody meets in the middle, and hopefully everybody's happy in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the app goes, once you accept a load, you can record that information in there. So you can record the broker you talked to, the amount you got it for. It's keeping a running total for you, so that you can see what you're doing. So if like we just said earlier, I went down to Florida, I made good money. I came out, I chose to deadhead, or I took, something low paying. Now I've run those 2 loads. I can look back and where did that work out? Am I at my 10%? Am I at 5%? Did I ultimately take a loss? If I did, that means I didn't bid high enough going into Florida, because I'm going to get garbage coming out. So there's the data right there for you to look at and say, where did I screw up? Or even to take it a step further, regionally, what areas work better at what time of year? You got all that stuff right there that you can track. But like I said, you also got that contact info. So the next time I'm over here, Jared gave me this load. Let me call Jared first. Hey, Jared, I'm in the area. Do you have another one of these?
Yeah, it's important to keep track of that data. And I think sometimes they can be hard to track because there's so much going on during the day. So I love that you have a system. Chief Freight Hauler, it's called AccuBid. I'd be interested in how you figured out your costs. Were you just kind of sitting down and threw everything on like a piece of paper or an Excel? With AccuBid, man, this is super simple. Because I did a demo, or watched a demo too, and it lays out everything that essentially you should be understanding or looking into, and your cost. And it's super just user friendly. Mm-hmm. It's really quick to use. Yeah. So it's AccuBid. Go check it out. Let's see. Oh, you'll never convince these YouTube runner-offs that brokers are not 50% on every load. Yeah.
That's true.
It's tough. It's so interesting. It's like selling something to a farmer. They just have their ways. They're stuck in them, and until there's some kind of weird generational gap of some sort, then that'll eventually go away.
Well, it doesn't help when the big 3-letter is being sued over the shystiness they pull. It gives everyone a bad name in the industry. I mean, but that's kind of like lumping in every carrier the same. Just because you're a new MC doesn't mean you're a bad trucker. It just means you just got in the game. I mean, someone has to give you a chance at some point. It's like a brokerage going out to find, because you didn't have enough funding, you have to find a factoring company. Yeah. They're very hard to find because you have no experience in the game. I mean, we all got to work hand in hand at some point. Someone has to give you a shot. So do I shy away from new MC numbers? No, I don't. But you only have to burn me once to not be used again. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, we have to work together in order to get anything done.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, a couple of things came to mind. I have a big brain fart. But yeah, it is web-based, but you can also, there's an app, so you can get it on like your iPhone, because iPhones are badass. And then he's using Trucking Pro, but thinking of changing a web-based program within an app.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah.
I keep it, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy, you said something earlier that is, I think is probably one of the most important things. You know, there's only 9 months left in this year, and you can utilize that time. You said something I thought was interesting. You said, hey, I don't necessarily have to get on load boards. I use eCarrier Check. And I think this is probably more important than ever this year, is how do we work more hand in hand, or how do we start building relationships as a carrier? Can you give us some ideas of what you did when you were, behind the wheel? Give us a rundown on building those relationships, because you're a relationship guy. Look at you. You got a friggin' crazy beard. You got it going on, man. I love the outlay of what you do, bro. Like, give us a rundown. What's going on in your mind when it comes to how do I build more relationships? How do I keep calling people back, asking if they have another load? Why does your mind think like that?
It's just the industry. You don't really have a choice. I mean, like I say, I deal a lot in drayage, and I have 4 or 5, 6 carriers right now that every day I'll hear from them in some capacity. They'll call me or they'll email me. What you got going on? What do you need next? What do you see in the future? Whatever the case may be. And it's the same for me with my customers. Even if I haven't heard from them 2-3 days, it's call and check on them. How's everything going at the warehouse? What do you need? I mean, you got anything coming up? Hey, I'm here if you need something, just let me know. It's just standard, like talking to you guys. I mean, I know I can email out and you always answer back. I know that you can call me and I'm going to pick up the phone. And we're not in necessarily a working relationship. It's just to check in on each other. Hey, how's eCarrier Check doing? What you got going on? Hey, if there's something you need, let me know. Same with social media. I mean, if anyone's asked me, I tout the things that I use and that I like, and the people that I like, if that makes any sense. I mean, it's all about supporting each other in that aspect. I mean, there's no other way to get around it. Like I said, we're all in this together. A broker doesn't move freight without a truck. Right. And let's be honest, I mean, there are 650,000 MC numbers, and guess what? Most of those guys aren't moving anything without a broker. Yeah, because if you're a one truck guy, everybody says, oh, just go line up your own freight. It's just that simple. Yes and no. Okay, so you went and you got yourself your own shipper. That's awesome. You got one truck. What if your shipper moves 20 loads a day?
Yeah.
You're not a broker. How are you going to get it moved? Okay, maybe he only moves 1 load a day, but it goes out 350 miles. Did you set up a customer on the back end to get you home to pick up that next load? And if you didn't, you're not going to have that customer very long. So it's not as easy as just run out and get your own customer. So make relationships with brokers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what's nice with the eCarrier Check, because you can go find those brokers that are local. And like you said, if you're either a new MC or you got Jerome here who hasn't had inspections, where eCarrier Check can help you is find those brokers that are local or in those areas that you run, and literally pull up your truck, and hopefully they got parking there for you. But then you go introduce yourself, shake some hands, drop off a card, just have that chat, right? So I think it's important with that. Jimmy, what's your point, I guess? Would you work with a carrier with no inspections, or how do you, what's your thoughts on that? And Jerome, he's a good guy, by the way.
Hey, Jerome, I work with carriers with no inspections all the time. Like I said, you can't, it's nobody's fault if you're new to the business.
Right.
I mean, it's really not. And how are you going to get an inspection if you're not on the road? How are you going to prove you're worth your weight if you're not on the road? Somebody's got to give you a shot. I mean, I see it all the time of so-and-so won't work with me because of my this or because of my that. And I'm like, well, how are they ever going to get people to work with them if you don't give them a chance? I know when you get burned, I know it kind of leaves a bad taste. I mean, I've been burned. I've had a load stolen. It cost me $5,500 to get it back. So, I mean, I know. But at the same time, I mean, if we didn't do everything we were scared of, we'd probably do nothing. So
exactly, yeah.
I mean, look at e-carrier check as a prime example. AccuBid Pro is a prime example. Yeah, we could lose it all. But you're not going to know if you don't take the chance. I mean, I feel like AccuBid Pro was born off of my back, off of the things I did in this business. And I put everything I had into it. You can call my wife and she'd probably be like, oh my God, yes. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't work, it's just a risk taken. But I feel like it's worth what it can bring to the industry.
Yeah, no, 100% agree, man. That's kind of where Jared was at with e-carrier check, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys have been through so much scars in this game that it's like, okay, I'm going to help. Basically what you guys are doing is making other people's life a little bit easier. You know what I mean? And Chief Ray Holler, I stole you guys a phone call, been extremely busy. Don't worry, brother. Get to us when you get a chance, man. I'll drop you my Snapchat if you want to send me some selfies. But T. Landy, where can I find a list of new MCs e-carrier check?
Yep.
As a broker with no DTP or credit score on the boards, it's challenging getting MCs to work with me. E-carrier check, T. Landy. We have a filter that you can go find those new carriers with the new MCs, and then start picking up the phone and calling them in.
Yeah, I got a little bit on that there, T. Landy.
Yeah.
If you can also pick up the phone and call factoring companies and ask them to get you signed up, and they're probably going to make you pay in advance for your first load or 2 loads with them. And once you get set up, you'll get that credit rating, and it goes from there. Me, myself, I mean, I pay a lot of drivers cash on hand. I pay a lot of Zelle, but I'm set up with almost every factoring company there is. My credit score is like 97 on the load boards when I have to use them. You'll see that. But it's and believe it or not, they penalized me because I went from carrier to broker. They acted like I was new. So I had to go through that whole process again of getting set up. But I started calling them. I mean, I call OTR like, hey, what's it take to get a rating with you guys? And they're like, oh, well, you want to move this load, pay us up front. So, yeah, it's a little costly and a little scary, but it's part of doing business.
I also like just how creative you are, Jimmy. You know, you're not afraid to pick up the phone. You're not afraid to take a risk. And I think a lot of people are. They're just afraid to take the next step. That's what I love about you, man. You just take it to the next level, and you're willing to take the next step and find out what's happening. And it could be a cliff, and it could be a water. It could be just dry land, and we keep going. But, we're all going to fall. We're all going to just do those things. Unfortunately, you just have to take the risk and keep walking. So,
I mean, isn't that everything in life? I mean, if you ran out and got married, all you did was took a risk. If you had a child, you took a risk. I mean, that's everything in life. Some more than others, like starting a business. I mean, depending on what you start, it could be very financially taxing, or it could be minimal finance and just a lot of stress. Yeah. But either way, it's a risk. I mean, you see all this gray in my beard. I mean, it's not easy.
You look good still, man.
I love it.
Really quick, go ahead, Jimmy.
I'm 25. You see all this gray. No, I'm just kidding.
We're gonna run with that. You're 25. Before the show, we talked about the challenges of, like agents, people working from home, and right now it is tough to land a shipper. What advice do you have for those people that are working from home today that are, they just don't have the support that they need, but they're at home making calls? You have any advice for those guys that are at home making calls and just trying to, make a name for themselves in this industry?
Keep making the calls, for one. I mean, you're going to have to make the calls. And by the calls, I don't mean the emails. I mean the calls. or get out from behind your desk or your kitchen table or wherever you're doing this at and drive to a location. Go just walk up to that dock and say, hey, is Joe transportation manager here? And introduce yourself. All they can say is get the hell off my property.
Yeah.
And what have you lost? It's no different than picking up the phone and them hanging up on you or not taking your call or sending out 500 emails and not getting a response. It's no different. You know, rejection is rejection, but that is this business. It's 90% rejection, and you're looking for that 10% success. But the only way to get that is to put in the work to get it. Find people that you kind of vibe with on social media and follow them. Give them shout outs. Pick up the phone and call them. I mean, hell, I didn't know Jason Rabine, and I picked up the phone and called him. And the guy took my call. He didn't say, who are you? You know, I didn't know John Rogers. And now I know him. You know, I didn't know you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I started talking to you via social media, and next thing you know, here I am podcasting with you. I mean, it's scary. It's hard to keep hearing the word no. It's very deflating. But you're either all in or you're all out. Yeah. You can go sit in the comfort of a W-2 job or whatever it's called, W-9, whatever, where they're paying you. But they're also pressing you to get somewhere, you know, 100 calls a day, 200 calls a day, whatever the case may be.
I love it.
I don't have those quotas on myself. I'm like, make quality calls every day or make quality connects every day. Whatever that might be. It might only be 5 because I spent an hour, 2 hours on each one, but do quality over quantity.
Yeah, exactly. The more connections you have, honestly, too, if you ever had a question, let's just say, for instance, you landed a customer that's doing a lot of, let's just say, intermodal, and you don't want to pass up that opportunity. But guess what? There's people out there that you could be connecting with that know intermodal like the back of their hand. And, Bella hit it on the head, too. You're going to fall on your face a few times. You just got to get back up. Yeah, this industry is not for the weak. I tell you what, man. We got to see what Julie said here.
I love this.
Success leads
garbage dump guy.
Success leads through the garbage dump at least once. Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, at least once.
It might lead there 10 times, but at least once.
Jimmy, man, I know you got to get back to it today, man. You're grinding. I appreciate you taking the time of your day, just coming on the show. Obviously there's money to be made, so I understand that. If you guys are interested and connected with Jimmy, his contact info is in the description of this video. I recommend reaching out to him. I know there's some good carriers in here that could probably, make a good relationship with Jimmy. Jimmy, how else can we get a hold of you? Do you have a website that people can go visit? How can people hear more or see more of AccuBid as well?
Man, for me, redrocketlogistics.com is my website. Of course, AccubidPro.com. Check it out. We got a YouTube video out there for AccubidPro Pro as well. I'm pretty flexible, man. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. Just reach out, man. I'm a responsive guy, but I'm also a straight shooter, and I'm pretty transparent. If I think you're crazy, I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
Quick story. I saw a post the other day, and it was in one of these Facebook groups. You know how it is. Yep. And it was, hey, all of us carriers got to stick together and don't move. Nothing that ain't $4 a mile. And I want that to be for flatbed, reefer, dry van, intermodal, yada, yada, yada. And that type shit just makes me laugh. Mm-hmm. Why do I need $4 a mile if my operating cost is $1.70? I don't. $2 a mile, and I'm a happy guy. Right. So, those things just make me laugh. So
yeah. And it hits different, too, coming from you because you were a driver back then. You understand this. So I appreciate your insights for sure.
No problem, guys. I appreciate y'all having me on and everything y'all do for the industry.
Jimmy, you're a rock star, man.
Get at Jimmy, everyone. Thanks again for showing up. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. We are going to be gone Friday, and we'll tune in next week, guys. Talk later.
Thanks.